You know how everyone says rock stars live forever? Well, their music might, but their faces tell a completely different story. We're talking about legends who ruled the stage with attitude, energy, and looks that made millions of fans scream. These were the guys who defined cool, who made leather jackets and long hair a lifestyle, who turned concerts into religious experiences. Today, we're looking at 15 rock stars who were absolute gods in their prime, but have aged in ways that'll make you do a double take. Axl Rose. The man behind Welcome to the Jungle and Sweet Child O' Mine was the definition of dangerous cool in the late 80s. That wild red hair flowing past his shoulders, that snarl that could stop you in your tracks, that raw, untamed energy that made every Guns N' Roses show feel like it could explode into chaos at any second. Axl owned the stage like few frontmen ever have. He moved like a panther stalking prey and looked like rebellion itself wrapped in leather and bandanas. His face was sharp, his eyes were piercing, and everything about him screamed danger and sex appeal. Women wanted him and men wanted to be him. That was Axl Rose in his absolute prime. Fast forward to recent years and the transformation is genuinely shocking. His face looks swollen and puffy in ways that change his entire appearance. The sharp, angular features have given way to something much rounder and softer. His features have shifted dramatically, and that lean, dangerous look is completely gone, replaced by someone who looks almost unrecognizable from the guy who commanded stadiums. And while Axl's wild energy faded into a very different appearance, the next artist went from youthful swagger to something that left fans equally stunned. Steven Tyler. The Aerosmith frontman with the signature scarves wrapped around his mic stand, those massive lips that became legendary, and that electrifying presence that made him rock royalty. During the 70s and 80s, Steven had this youthful, untouchable energy that seemed like it would never fade. His voice soared to impossible heights, his moves were iconic and copied by frontmen everywhere, and his face had this mischievous, playful charm that made him unforgettable. He looked like someone who was born to be on stage, like the universe created him specifically to be a rock star. That wild hair, those colorful clothes, that ability to move across a stage like he owned every inch of it. Steven Tyler was magic in human form. But decades of non-stop touring, years of hard living that he's been open about, and the weight of fame have left their mark in ways that are impossible to miss. His features now look stretched, worn, and tired in a way that's hard to ignore when you see recent photos. The face that once had that playful spark now looks like it's been through battles that took their toll. And while Steven's face shows decades of rock and roll wear, the next artist's transformation shocked fans who remembered him as a slender, glam metal heartthrob, Vince Neil. The blonde bad boy frontman of Motley Crue was the absolute definition of 80s glam rock at its finest. Tight leather pants that should have been illegal, perfectly styled big blonde hair that defied gravity, that cocky smirk that said he knew exactly how good he looked, and a voice that helped define an entire era of music. Vince looked absolutely untouchable during the peak years of Shout at the Devil and Girls, Girls, Girls. He was lean, sharp, dangerous, and effortlessly cool in ways that made him a poster on bedroom walls across the world. Women screamed his name and guys wanted his life. That was Vince Neil in his absolute prime, living the dream and looking like every rock fantasy come to life. Jump ahead to recent live shows, and the difference is genuinely jarring in ways that even longtime fans struggle to process. He's gained significant weight that's changed his entire silhouette. His face looks puffy and exhausted in ways that speak to years of wear, and his stage presence has shifted from energetic and commanding to visibly struggling just to get through performances. And while Vince's change shocked glam rock fans everywhere, the next artist shows what decades of absolute chaos and excess can do to a human body. Ozzy Osbourne died on 22nd July 2025 at age 76. The Prince of Darkness himself, the man who defined heavy metal madness, looked absolutely wild and dangerous in his prime years. Those piercing, intense eyes that looked like they could see into your soul. That manic, unpredictable stage energy that made every show feel genuinely dangerous. The unpredictable presence that made Black Sabbath legendary, and his solo career even bigger. During the 70s and 80s, Ozzy had this crazy vitality and energy that made him both terrifying and magnetic at the same time. You couldn't look away from him. He seemed indestructible, like nothing could stop him no matter what he put his body through. But decades of extreme excess, serious substance abuse that he's documented in his own autobiography, and multiple health struggles have taken an enormous devastating toll that's painful to witness. Recent footage shows someone who looks frail, unsteady on his feet, and visibly weakened in ways that break fans' hearts. His hands shake noticeably, his movements are much slower and more careful, and his face reflects years of wear and damage that go far beyond normal aging. If you're still with us, take a moment to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support keeps these stories coming and helps us share the real history behind the legends. Now let's continue. Iggy Pop, the shirtless wild man of punk rock, the godfather of punk who made danger look like art, had a lean, electrifying presence that defined rebellion for an entire generation. His body was literally a weapon on stage, all muscle and intensity and raw power. He dove fearlessly into crowds of fans, cut himself with broken glass during performances, rolled around in peanut butter and raw meat, and performed with a raw, almost feral intensity that both terrified and absolutely thrilled audiences who'd never seen anything like it. During the 70s, when punk was exploding, Iggy looked dangerous in the absolute best way possible. That tight, muscular frame, those wild eyes, that fearless energy that said he'd try anything once. He looked like violence and poetry combined into one sweaty, shirtless package. Every performance left him bloody, bruised, and more legendary. Today, his appearance tells the brutal, honest story of every single crazy performance and every hard year lived at maximum intensity. His skin looks heavily wrinkled and sunken, hanging loosely over a frame that's lost all its youthful power and muscle. And while Iggy's body shows every single year of punk rock chaos, the next artist became the absolute poster child for extreme aging in rock history, Keith Richards. The Rolling Stones guitarist, the human riff machine, had this effortlessly cool look in the 60s and 70s that defined what a rock star should be. That messy, perfectly imperfect hair, those sharp, prominent cheekbones that could cut glass, the cigarette always dangling casually from his lips like a permanent accessory. Every photo looked like it should be in a museum. But Keith became famous for something else entirely over the years. Looking like he absolutely should have died decades ago, but somehow keeps going. His face has become deeply lined and weathered like old leather left in the sun too long. His skin looks like it's been through wars, and his features have sunken in ways that make him almost unrecognizable from his prime if you put the photos side by side. He's actually joked about it himself numerous times, saying he's looked like this for 40 years straight and nobody can tell the difference anymore. But the transformation from that smooth-faced, cool guitarist to one of rock's most extreme aging stories is genuinely shocking. And while Keith's weathered look became legendary and almost expected, his bandmate experienced his own dramatic transformation from heartthrob to something very different: Mick Jagger. The Rolling Stones frontman, the man with moves like nobody else, was pure charisma and sex appeal in the 60s and 70s. Those iconic lips that became his trademark, that slender frame that moved like water across stages, the dance moves that influenced everyone who came after. Mick had youth, endless energy, and a face that cameras absolutely loved from every angle. He seemed completely untouchable, like he discovered the secret to eternal youth and cool. Flash forward to today, and while Mick still performs with genuinely impressive energy for someone his age, energy that puts men half his age to shame, his face tells a completely different story than his performances. His features have become sharply angular, and aged in ways that contrast heavily with those smooth, youthful images from the 60s. The cheekbones jut out more prominently now, the skin has thinned noticeably, and the overall structure looks dramatically different from the heartthrob who made girls faint. And while Mick's transformation surprised longtime Stones fans, the next artist went from glam rock royalty to a look that genuinely shocked everyone who remembered his prime: Bret Michaels. The Poison frontman with the signature bandana that became his trademark look was absolutely everywhere in the 80s. He had that perfect glam rock appearance with massive teased hair that defied physics, tight clothes that showed off his physique, and a face that made him a certified heartthrob plastered across every teen magazine. Songs like Every Rose Has Its Thorn made him a household name and turned him into a romantic figure. And his looks perfectly matched the fame and attention. He was living the dream and looked every bit the part. But Brett has faced some seriously scary health struggles over the years that changed everything. He suffered a brain hemorrhage in 2010 that nearly killed him, requiring emergency surgery. Then came an emergency appendectomy and a discovery that he had a hole in his heart. These weren't minor health scares. These were life-threatening situations that took their toll. Combined with what appears to be cosmetic work that hasn't quite achieved the desired effect, his appearance has changed significantly and noticeably. His face looks altered and different from the natural charm and ease he had in his prime years. The features don't move quite the same way, and something looks off in ways fans can't quite pinpoint, but definitely notice. And while Brett's struggles affected his appearance dramatically, the next artist's edgy cool look faded into something much more gaunt and skeletal. Joe Perry. The Aerosmith guitarist, the Toxic Twin alongside Steven Tyler, had this edgy, dangerous look that perfectly complemented Steven's wildness and the perfect rock partnership. During the 70s and 80s, Joe looked lean and mean with sharp features, dark, intense eyes, and that classic rock star presence that needed no words. He was the quiet, cool one who let his guitar do the talking, the one with the instrument that could absolutely melt faces when he wanted it to. While Steven commanded attention with his voice and moves, Joe stood there looking with a guitar in his hands, and that was more than enough. He had that perfect rock mystique. Time and lifestyle have taken their toll in genuinely dramatic ways that fans find concerning. Joe's face has become much more sunken and skeletal, his features sharper, but not in a good way like they used to be. Instead of looking edgy and cool, he now looks gaunt and worn down. The years of endless touring, the lifestyle that came with being in one of rock's biggest bands, and simple aging have left him, looking tired and weathered in ways that contrast sharply with his prime. And while Joe's transformation showed the real cost of the rock lifestyle, the next artist hid a lot of aging behind his famous makeup and larger-than-life persona, Gene Simmons. The demon of Kiss, the bass player with that impossibly long tongue and larger-than-life stage presence, was absolutely terrifying and captivating in equal measure during the 70s. In full demon makeup and costume with the bat wings and platform boots, Gene looked immortal and untouchable, like an actual supernatural being who'd stepped out of a nightmare to rock your face off. Even out of makeup during his prime years, he had strong masculine features, a commanding presence, and this intensity that made him impossible to ignore. He was smart, articulate, and looked like someone you didn't want to mess with. But take away the stage persona today, and the aging becomes absolutely impossible to miss. His face has developed deep creases and significant sagging features that the theatrical makeup cleverly hides during performances. The strong, defined jawline has softened considerably with age. His skin shows significant wear and loose texture, and the overall appearance is drastically different from his prime years when he looked powerful and dangerous. But candid photos and unmasked interviews reveal someone who has aged significantly, someone who looks every year of his age when the costume comes off. And while Gene's makeup provided some convenient cover for his aging, his bandmate's transformation became impossible to hide even with the iconic face paint. Paul Stanley. The star child of Kiss, the romantic one with the star over his eye, had this smooth, confident look that made him a rock icon and the heartthrob of the band. In the 70s and 80s, Paul looked sharp and handsome both in and out of the makeup. His smile was confident and genuine, his features were naturally strong and well-proportioned, and he carried himself like a star who knew his worth. Women loved the star child persona and the man behind it equally. He seemed to have it all together. The years have changed things significantly in ways that have fans talking and speculating. His face now looks heavily altered, especially noticeable around the eyes and jawline, where things look different in ways that suggest intervention. Whether from cosmetic procedures that perhaps didn't go as planned, natural aging that hit harder than expected, or some combination of both, the transformation is noticeable and frequently discussed among fans. Recent unmasked appearances show someone who looks drastically changed from the confident, smooth-faced frontman of Kiss's golden era when they ruled the world. And while Paul's appearance shifted dramatically, the next artist went from golden boy heartthrob to something that left 80s fans genuinely stunned. Jon Bon Jovi, the frontman with the $1,000,000 smile, perfect flowing hair, and all-American good looks, was the absolute definition of 80s rock royalty. That glowing, youthful face that seemed lit from within, those classic handsome features that made him look like he should be in movies, the voice that delivered "Livin' on a Prayer" and wanted dead or alive with passion and power. John looked like he stepped out of a magazine spread every single time cameras pointed at him. He had it all. The looks that made him a teen idol, the voice that proved he had substance, the charm that made everyone like him. But recent years have shown a very different picture that has fans concerned and confused. His face has taken on a more weathered, stiff appearance that contrasts sharply with that smooth, glowing 80s look. The features that once looked effortlessly handsome and natural now appear tired, aged, and somehow stiff, in ways that surprise longtime fans who expected him to age more gracefully. And while John's glow faded into something more weathered and stiff, the next artist experienced one of the most dramatic and shocking transformations in rock history. David Lee Roth. The original Van Halen frontman, Diamond Dave himself, was the absolute golden boy of rock in the late 70s and early 80s. That perfect sun-bleached California hair, those athletic high kicks that seemed to defy gravity, that cocky, confident grin that said he knew he was the coolest guy in any room, and that shirtless swagger that made him a legend. David Lee Roth looked like a California sun god who also happened to sing Jump and Hot for Teacher with incredible charisma and energy. He had youth, endless confidence, athletic ability, and looks that perfectly matched his outsized, larger-than-life personality. He could do splits in the air, he moved like a martial artist, and he looked like every California dream come to life. That was David Lee Roth at his peak, untouchable and golden. Time has not been kind at all. Recent photos show someone who looks drastically and dramatically aged with deep, prominent lines, uneven features that have shifted, and a face that barely resembles the golden rocker of his prime. The transformation became especially shockingly apparent during his final performances with Van Halen when the band reunited. And while David's transformation left Van Halen fans stunned and sad, the next artist went from vibrant charm to something much more frail and concerning. Rod Stewart. The raspy-voiced legend behind Maggie May, Tonight's the Night, and Do You Think I'm Sexy? Had this vibrant, energetic charm throughout the 70s and 80s that made him irresistible. Rod looked like someone who lived life fully and enjoyed every second of it. His face had character, charm, and charisma that cameras couldn't get enough of. He seemed ageless, like he'd found the secret to staying forever young and vital. But recent public appearances tell a very different and concerning story. Rod now looks noticeably more frail and heavily aged in ways that worry longtime fans who remember his vitality. His face has thinned considerably, losing the fullness it once had. His movements seem slower and more careful than the confident strut he used to have. And the overall vitality and energy that defined him for decades has diminished noticeably. Rod Stewart aged from that confident, stylish showman to someone who looks like he's fighting to maintain what made him legendary. And while Rod's vitality faded visibly, the final artist on our list uses dramatic makeup to actually highlight just how much time has changed him. Alice Cooper. The shock rock legend, the theatrical master, with the elaborate stage shows featuring guillotines and electric chairs and iconic black eye makeup, created a character that seemed ageless and immortal. During the 70s, when he was pioneering theatrical rock, even without the makeup, Alice had this youthful, rebellious look that matched his dangerous, unpredictable stage persona perfectly. The makeup enhanced and amplified the character without really hiding much underneath. He looked dangerous, edgy, and eternally young behind the grease paint. Today, that same theatrical makeup tells a very different story than it did decades ago. Instead of highlighting youthful rebellion and danger, it now almost exaggerates and draws attention to how much time has changed his face underneath. The lines are much deeper and more pronounced. The skin has loosened considerably, and the overall appearance shows significant aging that the black eye makeup can't hide anymore at all. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. Remember to hit that like button, drop a comment telling us which transformation shocked you the most, and subscribe so you never miss our next video. See you in the next one.